Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Obsessive Compulsive Gaming. I am the Obsessive Compulsive Gamer, and this is my little look back on the Remothered series of video games. I thought now would be an appropriate time to revisit this particular horror series of video games due to the upcoming release of My Sweet Carol, a game that is right at the top of my most anticipated games of 2025. So, I'm not getting any younger, so let's get on with this little retrospective of mine. Starting with 2018's Remothered, Tormented Fathers. Though this video game eventually released in 2018, it had actually been in development for far longer than that. In fact, there was an earlier version of the game which more closely resembled Clock Tower, the game which is probably the biggest inspiration for this title. But that version was cancelled in 2012 by this game's talented bastard of a director, Chris Darrell. Not only did he design this bloody thing, direct this bloody thing, but he also wrote this bloody thing. And what a story it is. In this title we play as Rosemary Reed, Jodie Foster lookalike, journalist extraordinaire, I think. I'm pretty sure she's a journalist. I might have to check my facts on that. Anyway, Jodie Foster, Rosemary Reed, arrives at the Felton family's mansion to investigate the disappearance of their daughter Celeste. She apparently vanished years ago. And when the owner of this decrepit mansion, Richard, realizes Rosemary's true intentions, a terrifying night begins. While this game came out in 2018, I am rather reluctant to spoil the rest of the game's story for you, dear viewers, because I want you to play the game. That's the whole point in me making this little video. As well as an opportunity to talk about Remothered Tormented Fathers, a game which sadly does not have a review on this channel. So you know the creative genius behind it, you know the game's basic story outline, you know that it's sort of an homage to Clock Tower. But what the hell actually is this game? I'm so glad you asked, dear viewers. This is a quote-unquote survival horror video game, in which you explore the Felton family's mansion, collecting items to progress, finding documents that'll fill in all the spooky goings-on in this particular mansion, as well as trying to elude some particularly terrifying adversaries, not least Richard. If you've ever wanted the opportunity to play a survival horror game in which you are pursued by a naked old man wearing nothing but an apron, then boy oh boy have you come to the right place, dear viewers. But he is only one of several terrifying entities you're going to be trying to outrun and keep the hell away from in this video game. And that's what you're going to be doing, keeping the hell away from them, hiding from them, trying to sneak past them. This isn't one of those action horror games in which you can just go in all guns blazing, sticking grenades down the throats of zombies and hoping for the best. This is very much one of those stealth horror experiences, much like the original Clock Tower was. And in fact, this game does have quite a lot in common with Clock Tower. A persistent stalker who's trying to stick a weapon up your ass, collecting items to progress, some pretty twisted, twists, and a lot of bloody jump scares. And I've got to say, dear viewers, this is definitely a game that has grown on me over the years. My very first playthrough of this game, back when it originally released, I thought, yes, that was fine. That was okay. But the more that I replayed this game, the more I've dug into the game's story, and of course seeing how events turn out in this game's sequel has led me to appreciate this game more and more every single time I play it. I can't remember the last time that I played a video game that has me on edge quite as much as this game. Think of something like Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, in which Nemesis can turn up at any bloody time. Well, the entities in this game act very much like that. Everything is dark and moody. When you actually figure out what the hell's going on in this game's story, it's just twist after twist, and each twist is more disturbing than the last one, culminating in a sequence of someone actually ripping their own eyeballs out. No, I am not joking. But if you want to see that in all of its glory as well as everything else that this game has to offer, well, you're just going to have to play the bloody thing for yourself, aren't you, dear viewers? And I highly recommend that you do, especially if you're a fan of Clock Tower or other horror video games like Haunting Grounds on the PlayStation 2, Rule of Rose, Clock Tower 3. Just, don't play this game if you've got a weak stomach. You will projectile vomit everywhere. Trust me, Bertrum has a particularly weak stomach. Projectile vomit everywhere. Isn't that right, Bertrum? See? He agrees with me. But if you think we're done talking about Remothered, well, you're sadly mistaken, dear viewers. Remothered Broken Porcelain released in 2020 to, sadly, mostly negative reviews. And in fact, even my own review on the game was particularly unfair to it. The game, upon release, sadly was riddled with bugs, glitches, game-breaking moments in which you couldn't progress, and sadly, all of that tainted my opinion of the game. But what do I think about it now, dear viewers? This, for me, is the superior game in the Remothered series. It's beautiful, often haunting, disturbing, sad, and above all else, rather scary. And all of those things are on my top 10 kinks of all time. So suffice to say, I adore this game. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's talk about Remothered Broken Porcelain. And I'll explain it the only way I know how. Badly. This game serves as both a prequel and a sequel to Tormented Fathers. The story this time follows Jennifer, who has absolutely nothing in common with the lead protagonist of Clock Tower. How many times have I mentioned Clock Tower in this video? Let's see, 1, 2, carry the 4, take away 5. A bloody lot of times, that's how many. Anyway, Jennifer is a rebellious orphan who works at the Ashman Inn, whose staff have gone mad with a murderous rage. In other sections of the game, we catch up with Jodie Rosemary Reed, as she is still investigating the disappearance of Celeste Felton. Now, just like Tormented Fathers, I don't want to give away too much of the story, dear viewers. After all, I have made this video in the hope that I can convince some of you to give this series another go, if you haven't already. The game was once again created, written, and directed by that oh-so-talented bastard, Chris Darrell. And while the original game focused a lot on trying to evade an ever-present captor/killer/naked old man who may or may not have been trying to ground our bones into dust, Broken Porcelain is a much more conventional horror affair, and it's all the better for it. This game not only features long stretches where we don't have to worry about a menace trying to get their hands on us, But this game also sort of features combat, mostly using a nail gun, which we get to use in some scripted sequences, boss fights, if we can call them boss fights. And I tell you, there's nothing better than being able to pound 257 nails into some supernatural bastard in a mask who's been trying to convince you to watch all of the seasons of Sex and the City with him for the last 3 days and 17 hours. Like the previous game though, there will be lots of looking for objects and keys to progress, trying to figure out how you can take down some fat bitch so you can get a key off of her body. And if you're offended by the fact I just called the woman in question a fat bitch, don't worry, dear viewers. It's just a video game. Video game characters cannot be offended. Though, Kratos did cry that time that I met him in the local bathroom and told him that his pee-pee reminded me of a KP nut. Anyway, everything in this game, in my humble opinion, is a step up from Tormented Fathers. The gameplay is better, the visuals are better, there's some fantastic music in here. All of the backstory we get on mysterious characters like Gloria, Jennifer, Celeste, the Feltons. All of that, absolutely top-notch. And I wasn't lying when I said that I found this game to be genuinely sad. Though I probably prefer to use the word emotional. There's a central love story here that's present throughout the majority of the game and gets resolved in a, shall we call it, very tragic way in the final few moments of the game. And though it took me a couple of playthroughs to fully appreciate it, now it's probably my absolute favorite part of the game. Watching these two characters meet and subsequently fall in love. But don't worry, dear viewers, this isn't all sunshine, rainbows, kisses, the occasional bit of spooning. No. The horror from the original game is very present here. The, shall we call them, supernatural threats that you go up against in this game are equally as terrifying as that naked old man in the first game. And this game even comes with a human antagonist who is truly despicable. In fact, we actually get to decide this particular character's fate at the end of the game. And I was very thankful for that, Mr. Darrell. Honestly, I can't say enough good things about Remothered Broken Porcelain. Though it had a rather shaky launch back in 2020, I'm just glad that I gave the game a chance, and I have revisited it at least once or twice a year since. So if you're going to give this series a go, which I hope you do, make sure that you play this sequel. Don't just stop with the first game. That would be foolish. And you don't want to be foolish, do you? So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. My little retrospective for the Remothered series. I hope I've maybe shared some information you didn't know. Maybe I've convinced some of you to give this series a go for yourselves. But in a world dominated by horror franchises like Silent Hill, Resident Evil, Fatal Frame, there's always room for a bit of Remothered in your life. So where are you waiting for? Buy the bloody game right now. Get it played. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But remember the single most important thing I always tell you, dear viewer, and that is to always stay obsessed with gaming. Are you still here? Oh, you must have really enjoyed this video then. In that case, you had better subscribe to the channel and check out our other content. Otherwise, you're a booby pants, and no one wants to be a booby pants.